It was supposed to be a normal Christmas cozy, warm, full of laughter, the smell of cookies in the oven, and the soft glow of lights twinkling on the tree. But that year, something felt off from the moment I stepped into the house. My parents were buzzing with excitement, far too cheerful for the season, but the house was eerily quiet. I soon discovered why. "Where's Grandpa?" I asked, dropping my coat and looking around the living room. Normally, he would be seated in his favorite recliner, sipping tea and grumbling about how kids these days don't appreciate the cold, or how the music on the radio was never as good as it used to be. But this year, the chair was empty. "Oh, he's fine," my mom replied quickly, avoiding my gaze. "He's, staying at the cabin. Yes, the cabin. To enjoy the Christmas snow." Something about the way she said it didn't sit right. My dad was unusually quiet, fiddling with his phone, not meeting my eyes either. My stomach tightened. Grandpa loved the cabin, yes, but it was far too cold for him to stay there alone. Last winter, he had barely made it through a single night without shivering uncontrollably. "Alone?" I asked slowly. "In that cold?" My parents exchanged a quick glance, a fleeting moment of panic flashing across their faces. That was enough. My suspicion grew into a knot of worry. "Where exactly is the cabin?" I pressed. "We thought he'd enjoy some quiet," my dad said vaguely. "He likes solitude." I didn't buy it. I knew Grandpa. He wasn't just old, he was frail. He could barely manage the stairs at home without someone helping him. And now, apparently, he was supposed to survive freezing temperatures alone? Something didn't add up. Later that afternoon, curiosity and dread gnawing at me, I grabbed my coat and keys. I needed to see for myself. I drove through the snow, the cold biting at my cheeks as I approached the cabin on the outskirts of town. And then I saw him. Grandpa was sitting on the front porch, wrapped in a thin blanket, shivering violently. His breath formed small clouds in the freezing air. There was no fire, no warmth, just him and the wind. I ran to the porch, my heart hammering, my chest tight with anger and fear. "Grandpa, oh my God," I shouted, pulling him into my arms. His frail body shook uncontrollably, and I could feel the cold seeping into my own bones as I wrapped him in my coat. "I thought they'd be back soon," he muttered weakly, his lips blue, his hands like ice. "They said they needed a special Christmas trip." My blood boiled. My parents had left him, my own grandfather, the man who had raised me in so many ways, to freeze while they went on a luxury cruise. A special trip at the expense of his safety. How could they? I had so many questions, but right now there was only urgency. I carried him inside the cabin, slamming the door against the cold, and stacked blankets around him. I lit the fireplace and wrapped him in every warm layer I could find. Slowly, his shivering eased, though his hands and feet remained ice cold. "Why would they do this?" I asked him softly. Grandpa shook his head. "Your parents, they thought I'd be fine, that I could handle it. But I knew it was too cold. I didn't want to spoil their fun." His voice trembled not from fear alone, but from disappointment. That night, I drove him back to my house, keeping him bundled in blankets, and made him a hot cup of cocoa. I tried calling my parents, my voice shaking as I demanded answers, but they didn't pick up. Instead, I left a message. "Grandpa is safe now, but what you did is unforgivable." For the rest of the evening, I stayed by Grandpa's side, making sure he ate, drank, and stayed warm. I listened to his stories about Christmases past, his gentle humor masking the hurt he felt. And in those quiet hours, I realized something important. He had survived so much already: war, loss, hardship. But this betrayal by his own family stung deeper than any cold ever could. When my parents finally returned from their cruise 2 days later, I confronted them. Their faces fell when they saw Grandpa, healthy and warm in his favorite chair, and me standing firm beside him. We didn't think it would be that bad," my mom stammered. "Not that bad?" I echoed, disbelief rising. "He was freezing. He could have died. How could you put your fun above his life?" My dad tried to speak, but I cut him off. "No excuses. Grandpa is family. He is supposed to come first. Always." Grandpa, usually quiet during arguments, gave them a look I would never forget. It was not anger, it was disappointment. Deep, quiet, unshakable disappointment. And somehow that hurt more than my words. From that Christmas onward, things changed. My parents apologized, of course, but the damage lingered. I made it my mission to ensure Grandpa was never alone in cold weather again. installing heaters, emergency supplies, and even a small alarm system that could alert me if he needed help. He became my priority, my responsibility, and I didn't regret it. That Christmas, I learned two things. First, love isn't just about gifts or fancy trips, it is about showing up when it matters most. And second, some lessons can only be learned the hard way when someone you love is left out in the cold, literally and figuratively. Grandpa recovered quickly, his spirits high despite the ordeal. And while the memory of that Christmas still made my blood boil, it also reminded me of the power of family, how protecting those who raised us is more important than anything else, even a cruise in the sun. That year, Christmas wasn't about presents or decorations. It was about warmth, care, and standing up for the people who truly matter. And from then on, I made sure no one I loved would ever be left to freeze. Not even for a moment.